So, earlier today we received a report from Shams Charania of The Athletic that could really shake up the NBA. And the report is the Indiana Pacers are moving towards a rebuild. They are receptive to trade talks centered around Karis LeVert and either Domantas Sabonis or Miles Turner. So, the Pacers probably looking to shake things up, looking to rebuild and trade LeVert and one of Sabonis or Turner, which is something that has been suggested for quite a while now. So my first question is if this is a full rebuild or more of a retool, because if the Pacers were trading both Sabonis and Turner and LeVert and they're just looking to get as many young players and picks as possible, that would be more of a rebuild. But this suggests more of a retool where they're still looking to be a little bit competitive. They're just looking to shake up the roster and break up the Sabonis-Turner front court, which isn't a bad idea in my opinion. They're 10-16, 13th in the East, and they're just a very average team. So I think they could use a little bit of energy. The Sabonis-Turner front court has been together for a while, and it hasn't been bad. It's led them to a few decent seasons, but you feel like there's more potential if you break it up and, Sabonis could explode alone and Turner could explode alone. So yeah, I think the biggest thing that's been holding them back from doing this for a while, well, a few things, but, obviously they're a small market, they need the attendance, things like that. But also, I think there is the fear that if they trade Sabonis, they're not going to be able to be a good offensive team. And if they trade Turner, they're going to struggle defensively. And I think that's a legitimate concern. So, we'll see what they do. We'll see which one they trade, because it is a big decision whether you stick with Sabonis, who is an offensive hub and who can help you out on that end, or whether you stick with Turner, who is a great rim protector defensively. Another thing for the Pacers is that Brogdon cannot be traded this season, which is notable because, he has $20 million and, he could be a piece in a lot of these potential trades, but he can't be traded this season. So, yeah, Sabonis, Turner, LeVert, those were the three guys I think they're mainly, going to be fielding offers for. I could also see them trading off some role players like Jeremy Lamb, G.J. McConnell, maybe TJ Warren when he gets back. But right now I'm just going to focus on Sabonis, Turner, and LeVert. Starting with LeVert, who this season's averaging 15 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and shooting 26% from 3. I think in an ideal situation, an ideal world, LeVert is like a shot creator with decent size who can create offense and hit his threes off ball. But with the Pacers, he was obviously injured to start his tenure with them, and then since then, I don't think he's been super bad personally, but I think, as a team it hasn't worked out. He's sort of been perceived as maybe someone who's a bit of a chucker, a bit of a ball hog, and it hasn't quite worked out for the Pacers, and it's understandable why they want to trade him. I think some of the best fits, like I'm thinking about some teams who need a little bit of pop offensively, who maybe need like a secondary guy. I think the Mavericks could be interesting. Obviously, they're always looking for people to put around Luka. I think the Sixers could also be interesting around Embiid. So we'll see. I think LeVert's value, it might not be that great, but I think there will be some teams willing to take a chance on him because he's still relatively young, and you can definitely see the potential. Averaged 20 points a game last season. Okay, and then Sabonis, who I think is the best asset of the three, and, might not get the most interest, but, would get like the highest value offers. He's averaging 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists a game this season, and he's an offensive hub who you can really, run your offense around. He can pass, he can post up, he can shoot a little bit, and, he's just a very exciting offensive player, very versatile, and I think, you get excited when you see the prospect of Sabonis on different teams from the Pacers, or even on the Pacers without Turner, where he's the only big guy and he has the spacing around him and he has players who can shoot and make plays around him. The one thing is that he's not a great defender, so that could be a problem for any teams trading for him. And the teams I've seen, I think the main one is the Warriors, and this makes sense. He's a smart player. He'd fit into their passing scheme. He would give them something that they've never really had in a big guy who can post up and play make out of the post, maybe a little bit like Andrew Bogut, but sort of like a bit more mobile than that. And I think, in terms of, you think of handoff plays, you think of him playing with smart players like Draymond and Curry, and the spacing when Klay gets back. And the Warriors do have the assets with their young players like James Wiseman, primarily, but also, the two kids they drafted this year, Kuminga and Moody. So I think Sabonis on another team, especially the Warriors, could be exciting. I've also seen maybe the Raptors could make sense. They also have a smart team with a decent amount of shooting. The Spurs are, it'd be interested to see how Greg Popovich uses them. I just think there's lots of fun teams for Sabonis, and the funnest is probably the Warriors. And then finally Turner, who is sort of like an ideal role-playing center in the modern NBA, because he can protect the rim defensively, average about 3 blocks a game this season, and he can also space the floor offensively. The first team I think about for Turner is the Pelicans because of Zion, and because I feel like he's pretty much the ideal center put next to Zion, because he's a good defender and he can space the floor. The only thing is they do have Valanciunas, and they did extend him, and so that could be a little bit tricky. Maybe it'd be like a 3-team trade with Valanciunas going to a third team and Turner going to the Pelicans. That could make sense. The Wolves, they do have Towns, but they always looking for rim protection and defense, though their defense has improved. But that could make sense. I think the Hornets are also a team I really like because Turner is still quite young, and the Hornets are still a very young team. He could make sense because he can space the floor, he can defend, and I think that would be really fun to watch too. And then finally, I have to mention the Warriors too, because he could give them defense. And yeah, again, it's similar to Sabonis in that I feel like the Warriors, if they get another big who can do some things, Turner would be primarily defensively, that could be really exciting.